We have multiplied our possessions but reduced our values. We talk too much, love too seldom, and hate too often. We've learned how to make a living but not a life. We've added years to our lives but not life to our years. And with that, another daily Count Me App or talk for 10 minutes unedited about random topics and then just cut it off. So today, once more, we're just talking off the cuff. I have a bunch of notes in my journal as per usual, but none of them are really, there's no like point to them. There's no through line in them. It's just sort of a couple of thoughts. So one thought, the quote over here, it supposedly was said by George Carlin. I'm not 100% sure. I've said it I've seen the quote and the origin is disputed. But whatever the case may be, it's still a beautiful quote. I like this very much because it is true. We have a lot of stuff, right? We can get all sorts of cheap goods and that can immensely help, let's say, like your life. But when I'm really thinking about this, let's say within the household, I think there's a couple of things. So getting a dishwasher was probably by far one of the best purchases that I've ever made. I used to do all the dishes by hand. My God, a dishwasher is just, it's peak. It is peak. It is so freaking good. Like going from doing it manually, let's say, and then going to a dishwasher, huge. Another huge thing that I think is worth it is a Roomba or an automatic vacuum cleaner, right? Like a vacuum robot. I have one that also does the mopping, like, so you can put a mop of like the attachments are on there, but basically you can put water in it and then it also mops the floor as well. Huge. I think that's, even though it doesn't, I would say that if you do it manually, it cleans better, you clean better. But the point is not for the robot to do 100%. I would say that it does a good enough job that that it reduces the amount of time that I have to clean by, I don't even know. I mean, at least like 50 to 80%, I would say, somewhere around that range. Also highly depends on obviously how often you clean yourself. But those two are huge. But then I'm thinking, okay, but apart from, let's say, the automatic robot, what really is there in terms of the household appliance, right? When we say we multiplied our possessions, because sometimes possessions, yeah, they don't always need to be practical, but I'm thinking practical right now. I don't know what other thing there has been made in the last 15 years that has gotten me a major upside in terms of, let's say, household or functional practicality. I mean, yeah, sure, of course, like there's things where, let's say, if we talk about the PC or something like that, okay, but that's not, I think that that's a little bit too far removed from what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about, things that make your life easier. And when you really think about it like that, there's not that much. I mean, obviously there's always new things being developed and new products being made, and some of them are awesome and some of them aren't even anything expensive or necessarily, anything like that. But still, I find it interesting. that just sort of came to mind. But yeah, we reduced our values. Absolutely. I think that is a thing that I've talked about the last couple of times, where we no longer in our society often, when has anyone ever talked to you about honor? I don't know, but probably very rarely. And it's like one of those things that's just, I think it's somewhat foundational, right? Courage, we do talk about that a little bit. Justice, I think we talk about too much. I think we talk about justice way too much, but not anything and everything that comes with it, right? Because you have to have wisdom to have justice, and you need to have integrity to have justice, and you need responsibility for justice. You can't just have justice. And there's also the flip side of justice, which is mercy. And I think that a conversation about justice is impossible without also having a conversation about mercy. And then the question is, where does mercy stem from? And then I would say that mercy most of the time probably comes from strength. And then that leads me to the to one of the greatest quotes ever, which is by Thucydides. Right as the world goes is only in question between equals in power. While the strong do what they can, the weak suffer what they must. That's a huge one. And by the way, I think that this is often interpreted in some of the worst light that you can read this, because it says that the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. All right? If you are the strong, you can dictate the terms, right? This does not mean that you have to somehow make the weak suffer, right? It's just that the weak don't have a choice. So I think that this is not a call to be weak, or to say that the strong are bullies. No. Usually bullies are not strong, although they might have an aspect of strength, but holistic strength is usually it's very rare that a person who is holistically strong is a bully. I don't think that that's usually the case. What else do we have? We talk too much. Well, I mean, listen, okay? Listen, when I start a daily yapping series and then I read a quote that says we talk too much, I agree. We love too seldom and hate too often. Absolutely agreed. I think that but we've talked about love before. We haven't talked about hate, although I think we do need to I need to talk about hate for an entire episode as well, probably, because that's an interesting concept. But yeah, love, we talked about that before. The reason why I think that there's an aspect of why we love too seldom is because the word love has to incorporate too many different emotions and too many different things. It has to incorporate, all different types of love, and I believe that due to all sorts of different societal factors, it is hard to love when we have when the word has to incorporate so many different things, but our definition is very narrow. Even though within the context it's very easy because it's not disambiguated, I think love is sometimes very difficult. We've learned how to make a living, but not a life. I don't even know if the first part of that sentence is true anymore. A lot of people are not even making a living at this point, so they neither have life nor make a living, because sometimes cost of living has been rising quite significantly. But it depends. I mean, obviously there are different sorts of factors on that. However, how many are self-inflicted, how many are not? I don't know. It's honestly very, very hard to say, right? I mean, there are definitely ways that you could navigate through some things, not others. But yeah. And then we've added years to our lives, but not any life to our years. True, right? So I would hazard to guess that, let's say like in my generation, so that would be I guess beginning of Gen Z, I think. Somewhere between like millennials and Gen Z. I've never felt at home with either of them actually, which is very strange. So it's like I'm 1995. So I know that some people are going to say, "Oh, you're definitely millennial. You're definitely Gen Z." I don't know. I feel like neither of them and both of them at the same time. It's a very strange place to be in. Regardless, though, I would say that Gen Z. I mean, there's no way that if trajectory continues, that we aren't going to live easily to 100. Like almost everyone. Like it's just going to live to 100. Now, is that good? I don't know. It depends on how good life care is for the last years, right? Or how good your life satisfaction is and your just in general how well your life is at the end. So I don't know. Yeah, that's one of those things as well. And then funnily enough, below that, once again, I have written one of my favorite things that I write down very, very often in my journals, which is peace comes from the inside. And it's a reminder, which might be a good way to sort of lead this episode to a close. There's a reminder that when the ship that stays calm, like the captain that stays calm in the storm, that's the captain that will prevail as well. And you're the captain of your own ship, and it doesn't matter how crazy the storms get, you have to keep a level head, right? And that's what it means. Peace comes from the inside. It doesn't matter how much storm is raging outside, inside, you have to be a fortress. Not to exclude emotions, but to restrain them in a way, or to delay them, possibly. Things like that. But we are nearing the end, so hope you found this interesting, useful, or either or both. Until next time.